Hello, good afternoon. Welcome to Mentored, a live workshop series presented by Dutch Uncles. I'm Avilash, your host. In our weekly live show Mentored, we invite veterans who share their knowledge and experience and discuss topics that are apt and relevant to the first time and early stage retail investors. I'd also like to thank our audience who have joined us from across four different platforms: Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Twitter. First, let me start off by asking you a question. Do you know that whatever money you have in your account right now will be the value of that will be half or even less than that in a few years' time? That literally inflation is eating up the value of your money. Now, how do you actually keep that money growing in your account? Well, these are many questions that will continue to linger in your minds, but you will not have the answers. While you can understand the power of inflation, that it's enormous, but we are not able to withstand it. Hence, there is a need to really learn more about wise money making decisions, wise management decisions, and investment practices. To put it simply, it is more about reasonably and responsibly managing the limited amount of money in everything from paying your bills, buying your essentials, to saving it at the end of the day for your own future. And to guide you how to prioritize your goals for effective money management, we have with us our esteemed speaker, Ms. Shweta Jain. I take the privilege to introduce our speaker with all of you. Ms. Shweta Jain is a certified financial planner, author, and founder of Investography Pvt. Limited. She holds an experience of more than 16 years in the financial planning, research, and client services area. Welcome to our show, Shweta. It's indeed a pleasure to have you with us today.
Thank you, Vilash. Thanks for having me.
Yes, thank you. Pleasure is all ours. May I now request our speaker to kindly take over and initiate a workshop. And I would also request our live audience who have joined us from LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter to post your questions, and our speaker will be answering that after her presentation. Over to you, Shweta.
Thanks, Abhilash. Hello, everybody. And thank you, Rachankals, for having me over. And I'm happy to share good money habits with everybody because I think very strongly I feel that, this is what makes or breaks our future habits. And that is why I'm so excited and passionate about talking about habits to each and everyone, really. So while we talk about eating habits, being physically well, being mentally well, being financially well is equally important. And the foundation to that comes with habits. So, what are good money habits and what are we going to talk about? So, when we talk about money, we look at everything external, right? So, we look at the markets, we look at economy, we look at GDP, we look at how this scheme is performing, we look at how that stock is performing, we look at the various TV channels, we look at how US is doing, how Nasdaq is doing, etc., etc., etc. We have a whole list of things that we look at externally. What we don't do is look at it internally. Now, is that really relevant for money? Absolutely. Why? Because when it comes to financial matters, everything, and I mean everything, boils down to what do you want out of life. So, for me, money has always been a means to an end. I know it sounds really funny because I'm in the business of financial planning, I'm in the business of wealth management, but money is always a means to an end. So what do you want to do with that money? What kind of a life do you want to lead? Imagine this life is a journey, right? So what are the milestones that you want? Is this a jungle safari? Is this going to be a desert safari, or is this going to be a luxury, a five-star business class kind of a journey? What are your milestones going to be? What are you looking for in life? What is it that makes you you, and what is it that makes you happy? So the first question that I start off with, and I like to make my life a little easy, so I ask questions as well here before you start asking me questions. So what does financial independence mean to you? If you see, you is underlined. So what does it mean to you? It doesn't mean that you have to give a theoretical answer. It doesn't mean that you have to give an answer saying, I am not working for money, or if I were to retire tomorrow. Of course, those are theoretical examples. But what does it mean to you? And I'd be very happy if some of you are going to pitch in your responses here. Otherwise, you're going to just prove me right that I'm the most interesting person in this room. I will give you some examples as well. So, when I talk about financial independence, and this is way before COVID, in a room full of people, a physical room full of people, and we would look at what this question means. And I got a couple of very interesting answers, and I'm going to give some of them here. I'm going to share those here. One gentleman said, if I don't have to look at the price tag of something before I buy it, if I like it, I should just be picking it up, whether it's a suit or a car. That's financial independence to me. Very interesting. Somebody else said, if I'm not broke uh, before the end of the month, before my salary comes in, that's financial independence to me. Very interesting. Somebody else mentioned that if I don't have to go to my parents for any big buy, saying up down payment kar lo, I'm going to pay the EMIs. That is financial independence to me. And it was um, it was eye opening, because there are different things, right? So they probably have money in the same stocks, in the same schemes, right? But what do they want out of that money is completely different. And why is that important? Because when you assign meaning to some of these investments, you know for how long they can stay invested, you know how your journey is going to look like. So look inward and decide what your financial independence means to you. And trust me, then you're not going to just copy your neighbors or your friends' portfolio, saying you have these stocks or you have these schemes and I'm going to invest in the same. So do this as an assignment if you're not going to do this now. What does financial independence mean to you? Does it mean that you have to, you want to retire in the next 5 years? Does it mean that you want to start your own business in a few years? Does it mean you want to go abroad, take a sabbatical, reskill yourself, upskill yourself, and come back? Does it mean you want to spend time with your family? What does it mean to you? Figure that out, and you can then tell your money what to do. When you look at good habits, and this is right on top of my list, right? So this is what does insurance mean, right? So for most of us, insurance is a way of saving taxes. And that is not just something that I'm saying, but that's something that has come up time and again, saying, I have to save 80,000 under Section 80C, which is pending after my EPF. So I'm going to, so suggest me a product, right? So that's not how you should be looking at insurance. Why is insurance top of my list? Because you're protecting all your risks here. Now, you guys are investing in equity, so you know what risk is, but this is a completely different risk, right? This risk means, what if you are not around tomorrow? How does your family take care of themselves? What happens to their goals? And I've seen so many families suffer because of this one step that they've skipped, so to speak, and which is why this is at the top of my list. So insure adequately and insure correctly, and keep reviewing this insurance every few years when there is a change in your life. So, for example, if you've gotten married, if you have children, if you have a second child, if you've taken liabilities, so review it at those times. What kind of insurances should you take? Life insurance, like most people that would have told you that take term insurance, I will also vouch with by term insurance. So take adequate term insurance. Now, what is adequate? Everybody is telling you to take adequate term insurance, right? What is insurance and why are we covering this risk, right? So insurance means that if you had, for example, a sum of money today, your life or your family's future is protected. That is basically what insurance is. So, for example, say my family's annual expenses are 6 lakhs. So I divide it by the risk-free rate of say 6%. So I get a sum of 1 crore. That is my family's lifestyle protection, which it needs. Then I'm going to take future goals. Say I have 2 children. So each one, I need 1 crore, totally I need 1 crore of their future goals. So there is 1 crore and 1 crore, so 2 crores. And I say I have 20 lakhs as liability. So 2.2 crores is what I need as risk cover. So this means that if today I had 2.2 crores in my bank account or in my portfolio, I don't really need insurance as of today, right? Because in case something happens to me, my family is well off. But usually what happens, we don't have that 2.2 crores, right? So for example, I have say 50 lakhs. So the balance, that is 1.7 crores, is what my insurance requirement is. And it's really important to calculate this correctly. Now, please know that in this example, I've not accounted for inflation that my family will have to see through their life as well. But just as an example, so that it's easy for you and me to come down to this. So 1.7 crore as term insurance. Now, why term insurance? So 1.7 crores, if I go for an endowment or a ULIP or any other kind of plan which returns my money back to me, I have to pay anywhere between say 1.7 crores, so maybe even 17 lakhs to 8.5 lakhs, 5 lakhs, anywhere upwards of 5 lakhs, right? So it's not affordable, but I do need that cover. So term insurance makes it affordable. And it's, of course, uh, the sooner you take, the better, but take today and keep reviewing it every few years. One is because your life changes. Second is because the product itself and the market itself changes, right? So a few years ago, insurance became quite cheap. A couple of years ago, again, it got a little expensive. So make sure that you are on top of these things so that you are taking advantage. In case it's gotten cheaper for the same amount of money, you may get double the cover, for example, right? Health insurance. Today, I don't have to tell you how important health insurance is. We've all seen this in the last 1.5, 2 years, how important health insurance has become, and adequate insurance as well. If you do have cover from your company, make sure that you're taking a top up cover. Make sure that you're adding on and making sure it's adequate for you and your family. Uh, Critical illness policy. This is something that has been overlooked for a long time. Make sure that you are covering yourself for critical illness. Even if you're single, for example, you may not need life insurance, but you still do need health insurance and critical illness insurance. Critical illness is where you are covered for anything which is life threatening, but you're going to survive it. Because in case you die, you still get your family gets health and life insurance. If you're hospitalized, you get health insurance. But if you're at home recovering from an illness that was life threatening, nobody is going to give you any money, so to speak, right? And you're going to miss out on working because you may either cut down on work or take part time or take a different role, or not work at all, take a break. So when you're going through this phase, critical illness policy will give you a lump sum, which can ride you through this time, right? So it can take care of your expenses, it can take care of your investments, so your other goals don't get affected. Critical illness could make or break a family. I know a family which actually went through bankruptcy because the bread earner had a heart attack, and they used up a lot of all of their money for recovery of the person, right? So because at that time you're not thinking about money really, you need to make sure that your family is well, and of course money can be taken care of later. So critical illness is something that you should take care. Now, how much? Anywhere between 6 to 12 months of premium. Make sure that you're looking at what illnesses are covered, and if you do have a family history of something, make sure that it is taken care of as well. If you have any questions on any of these, do put in the chat box. I will take these questions a bit later. Now, savings versus investing. Now, this is something which is a lot of us are not going to accept. All right. So for me, for example, FDs is saving, it's not really investing. Investing is where your money is growing, right? And FD is saving. Not that it's bad, right? So each of these things have a different place in our portfolio. It's just that we shouldn't mistake one thing for another. Now, FD is great for saving your money. For short-term goals, for certain specific things that you have, like an emergency fund for the next couple of months that you're keeping your money aside. So that's fine, but don't for 1 second think that this is an investment. Why is that? I'll give you an example. The FT rates today, say for simplicity, it's at 6%. It's lower, but say 6%. Inflation is about 5.5, 6% too. So let's take inflation at 5.5%. So say 100 rupees you have today, and you need to buy a chair, the chair that I'm sitting on, but you don't want to buy this year. You want to buy it next year. So the cost of the chair next year will be 106 rupees. You said inflation at 6%. Okay. So cost will be 106 rupees. And with your FT, you will also get 106 rupees. So equal, right? No. Because there is tax impact on FT. Your interest on FT is taxable. So if you're in the 20% tax bracket, if you're in the 30% tax bracket, say for example, you're in the 30% tax bracket. So 1.8% of 6% is gone. So you have 4.2%. So you get 104 rupees and 20 paisa next year, and the chair costs 106 rupees. How are you going to afford it? So something that you could afford this year, you cannot afford next year. So that is the impact of FT, and that is the negative that none of us are seeing because we are so obsessed with my money is safe and I am getting what is there, right? It has its cost. As long as you know that and you accept that, then it's fine. Don't lull yourself into this complacency. I know a lot of you are investing in equities, but my contention there also is, are we investing enough in equities, and are we investing correctly? So that is the other question, and we could tackle if we have more questions on that. Okay, so fun question. What would you guys do? Choose to receive 10 crores today for the next 30 days, that you can have it. It's a hypothetical. I'm not giving you real money. It's hypothetical money. Or rupee one today, which will double every day for the next 30 days. So what are you going to do? Which one are you going to accept? If you were an FT investor, I bet you would accept answer A. Is there a way I can see your answers? Okay, let me see. Okay, so if you do have your answers, please put in chat box, or you could just not. You can think about it and not answer. That's fine as well. So here's your solution, right? So if you're going to double 1 rupee every day for 30 days, you're going to end up at 53 crores, 68 lakhs, and so on and so forth, right? For those of you who don't believe me, I'm going to just say this: compounding is the eighth wonder of the world. I don't know who said this, but for you, I told you this. So you can quote me saying Shweta said this in a session, that compounding is the eighth wonder of the world. Albert Einstein is told to have said it, but there's no proofs, right? So that's your answer for you. For those of you who thought 10 crore aaj le lete hain. So imagine a colleague choosing B and you choosing A, and that's what you get. For those of you who still don't believe me, there is this story, and I think you can Google it or something on YouTube. There's this story that we've heard as even when we were children, right? There was this king, and he had his courtier who had um, who the king was very happy with. Maybe he was a jester, so he was very happy with the king, and he was very happy with the jester, and the king promised him to give him whatever he wants. And he was a smart one, so he said, you know what, give me this is a chessboard, give me the number of grains of rice on each one. So one on the first, double of that on the second, double of that on the third, and so on and so forth. So the king laughed and said, you could have chosen anything out of the whole kingdom, any jewels, etc., etc. And this is what you choose. He laughed. He's like, you're so stupid. And so that is what happens. And he started with one grain of rice. Then came on to two, then came on to four and eight. So by the time he reached, I think, uh, the middle of the board or a little further, just before the end, there was not enough rice in the kingdom to give him any more. He had basically given him all the rice in the kingdom, and still it wasn't enough. So that is the power of compounding. Might look very simple, might look very easy, but it isn't. Now, I've also heard this objection from a lot of people saying, you know what, I'm not lucky. I don't never make money in equities. So if you see even this, if you have an Excel, you can probably do it. The day 3, day 4, you only have like an incremental 1, incremental 2, incremental 4. It's the day 28, 29, and 30 where the whole difference is, right? So usually we sort of get disappointed by the third or fourth day, or maybe fifth or sixth day, and just sort of give up on that journey. Unlike Excel, real life equity or real life investments might also go into negative, which is why we then are even more scared, which is why the first slide comes into play here, where you've set your goal and said, you know what, I need this after 5 years, or I need this after 10 years. So why am I worried if this has gone down today? Right. So think about it when you're looking at even your equity portfolios. Now, before we move on to question answers, I want to talk about these basic good habits that I know some of you would have been following, some of them, but these are really things that you have to follow. Evaluate your insurance cover. Is it adequate? Is it not adequate? When are you going to review? What kind of policies should you take? Uh, Especially when it comes to term insurance, don't just look at the premium, look at the claim settlement ratio as well, because that's really important. Because in case something happens to you, you want to make sure that your loved ones get that money. And always give truthful information. Don't lie on your forms. I've seen people do that, whether it's little things, alcohol, smoking, whatever. Don't hide things there. Give your real medical history. That's really really important. And when it comes to critical illness, don't just look at the cheapest ones. Look at the number of illnesses it's covering, which ones it's covering, because it may cover one may cover say 5 and one may cover 17, and this one may be cheaper but not adequate. So make sure you're doing that. When you're looking at insurance, don't just look at it as cost, right? It does give you tax benefit. Under 80D you can, and under 80C you can claim. So 80D is your critical illness and your health insurance, 80C is your life insurance. So you can claim, and this has moved or increased over time. So when I started my career, I think the 80D benefit, I think, was 5,000. I think, yeah. And it's now 25,000 or 50,000, and even more sometimes if you have senior citizen parents and are senior citizens yourself. So make sure that you're taking advantage of that. This is a cost that you should incur in, of course, as much as you can, to make sure that you're covering yourself. Because in case, say, in case I win that lottery of 1.5 crores, I can always stop my term insurance, right? Which I've taken. In case of a product which is not term insurance, I can't really stop it so easily. Also, it works well for younger people who are not sure about what they're going to do with their lives, which country are they going to move to. Term insurance gives them that flexibility that they want, whether it's in terms of their finances or whether it's in terms of actually having that cover. One, because it's cheap and you can just discontinue. Second, because you're not locking away a lot of your money here, so you do have money at your disposal. Now, evaluate loans. I know I'm going to be hugely unpopular here because we are all into the buy now, pay later schemes. But I'm old school this way. I like to save for what I consume, what I want to buy. Simple reason, how much ever you buy really is not enough, and it's not going to be enough. We shop, shop, and shop. We shop when we're feeling sad. We shop when we're feeling happy. We shop because there's a sale, and it's never enough, right? And this can have a huge impact later on in life. So evaluate your loans and take loans very old school way. Don't be in a rush just because somebody is giving it to you. Don't fall for zero cost EMIs as well. A lot of them, and I've been quoted in the media as well for saying some of these things. You can look them up. I'm not really a fan of the buy now pay later scheme for the simple reason that it can get out of hand very easily. It's a habit that could kill a lot of futures, that could kill. I don't want to scare, but it can be very very dangerous, and it's not really something that you need in your life. This is an extra stress that you don't need. So don't take those loans so easily. Don't take out your credit card and take cash out of it so easily. Save first. Save for your goals. Postpone spending as much as you can, or want what you want to, right? So save first. If there's one thing that you take from this session today, I want you to save first. Don't say what's left after spending. Spend what's left after saving. Warren Buffett said this. Don't have to quote me. You can quote Warren Buffett on this. So save first. You know broadly how much you're going to spend on a monthly basis, right? If you don't watch for a month and then see what your budget is going to be, say you earn 30,000 a month and say you're spending 22,000 a month, right? Keep 8,000 aside first, because you will see that even though you've been saving 8,000 consistently, or you think your expenses are only 22,000, you never save that 8,000 unless it's an SIP or unless it's an RD or whatever. You're not saving that money. You spend that somewhere which is unaccountable. You will not believe the number of people that come to me and tell me this is my expenses, and then when I ask them what are they spending on credit card, and they're like, ah, yes, I didn't talk about that, that's a separate category. It isn't a separate category, right? It becomes a black hole. So you have to figure out how much you're spending on credit cards in your budget itself. Don't keep that separately. Prepare a contingency fund. Always have 3 to 6 months of your expenses set aside, safe, not in equities, set aside, maybe an FT, maybe a liquid mutual fund, whatever is safe, whatever works for you, maybe another bank account. So make sure that you're keeping this aside. Define your goals and timelines. Very important, so that you don't copy somebody else's portfolio and you don't get misled by that. For example, if you have your friend investing, say 1.5 lakhs, say that's your annual saving, for example, investing everything in a PPF account, and you copy the same, right? Nothing wrong with the PPF account, absolutely fine. But if you need that money in the next 2 years, 3 years, what are you going to do? It's a 15-year lock in. So don't just blindly copy your friends. It may be a right product, but it may not be a right fit for you. Very few people remember that. There's nothing wrong with the product, it's the fit that is a mismatch. Allocate assets according to your risk profile. I read this somewhere and I really like this. What's your risk profile? So when you're looking at investments, do you want to eat better or do you want to sleep better? Right? So though if you want to sleep better, you will have to invest in safer assets like FDs, PPF, EPF, debt, anything, right? If you want to eat well, you will have to beat inflation. So you'll have to go for growth assets like equity. Mostly, we want a combination. We want to eat well and sleep well, which means we need to have sort of a balanced risk profile. Now, how do you have a balanced risk profile? Is 50-50 right, the right allocation for everybody? Not really. For me, anything that you need in the next 3 years, you need to have it in safer assets. You cannot leave this to chance. You cannot leave this to markets. Beyond that, you can invest in growth assets. So that way, I eat well and I sleep well. Invest systematically. If you look at goals, and some of my other presentations that I talk about goal-based planning, I talk about how we have all these goals, right? Whether it's our retirement, children's education, their weddings, holiday homes, travel, owning a home, all of this, and it seems just so overwhelming. You're not alone. I find it overwhelming too. What do? I break it down monthly. I earn monthly, I spend monthly, so I invest monthly. So that way, a 5 crore goal becomes bite size, becomes manageable. Saying, okay, I need 5 crores after 30 years. Uh, so how much do I need to invest? Will 25,000 do enough? Will 50,000 do enough? Is it after 20 years? So whatever your goals are, invest systematically, invest monthly, invest regularly. Review and rebalance periodically. Doesn't mean every day. I know a lot of you guys who are doing equity trading as well, or even equity investing. Look at your portfolios pretty much on a minute to minute basis. I'm not like that. I would recommend review your portfolios, at least which is for investment, once a quarter, and rebalance maybe once a year, seeing how markets have done, seeing how your investments have done. Did you invest enough? Is there something you need to do? Is your allocation aligned to how you're feeling at the moment? Have your goals changed? So all of that, that is when you rebalance, or rebalance when markets have taken a huge correction and you have surplus money to invest, and your asset allocation again has gone wonky, saying markets were they've fallen 20%, so your portfolio has fallen 10% or whatever. So rebalance at those times. So review and rebalance periodically. And if you're doing this, so not that it's very, very difficult to know this, but it's quite difficult to do this. So it may look simple, it's definitely not easy. This is a book that you can go read. This is my book, My Conversations with Money. It's available on Amazon if you'd like to take a look. All of this that I said and more. It even has my vision board, what the goals are, how I'm planning to invest, all of that. So, yes, I'm happy to take on questions. Yes, you can watch me on some of these other media as well. And quote is there. Happy to take on questions now. We're good on time. I like how I'm on time, right? So yeah.
Yes, thank you so much, ma'am. It was really a very wonderful presentation. Since the moment you started with that money is means to an end, certainly it money is a means, not the end. This can also be one of the interpretations that I could feel. And for us, the generation to which I belong to, the millennial generation, for us, the problems with money are really most serious because when you mentioned about credit cards, it's certainly a black hole. It's certainly a black hole, ma'am. That this is what I could also relate to, and also when you spoke about insurance, that for most of us, and I believe it is for the audience as well, like it is also so it remains the means of saving our taxes. So this is what the role of insurance is for most of us. And also you spoke about like accountable spending, then about risk profiling, then systematic investments. I believe our audience have had so many takeaways to really carry forward from here onwards. So, with your permission, I would like to straight away go across to our questions, which we have received from our live audience. May I?
Sure, please.
Yes. Yes. Our first question from Mr. Ashish. He asks, I want to create a risk free, strong portfolio, but because of the current fluctuating economic situation due to the pandemic, there's a fear of booking losses. So, if you can share some strategic tips and methods.
Okay, Ashish ji, I have to bust your bubble here that there is no risk free portfolio ever. Nothing in life is without risk. Not even stepping out of your house to go for a cup of coffee. Nothing is without risks, right? And it's not just because it's a COVID world, right? Even otherwise. So you just have to accept what kind of risks you're willing to take. Now, for example, for the short term money, don't take any risks in terms of the credit worthiness of the person you're lending to or the bank you're lending to. For example, when you open an FD, it's you're lending to a bank, right? You're telling your bank, take this money and give this to me at so much interest after so much time. So in that, and we try and be penny wise pound foolish a lot of times, because we'll try and give our money to somebody who's giving us a little bit extra. I'm not going to name bank, but say an SBI is giving us 6% and some XYZ bank is giving at 9%, right, your FD. We all rush to that 9% without thinking what kind of risks we are taking. I remember telling this to a client 2 years ago, saying, when he said, this bank is giving me 9%, should I invest here? And I said, you know what, don't even look at that. This is your money that you need safe. Don't look at that. And he just looked at me saying, FD, what risks are you talking about? And a couple of years, one year later into that time, and he received that, it was under liquidity crisis. All of us heard that. And he called me up immediately and he said, how did you know? I said, I did not know. I just told you what I was seeing. Why would somebody give you a higher rate? Because it's a high risk, right? So there's no risk free portfolio. You just have to accept. So, for example, even in an FD, which will give you like an SBI FD, right? Which will give you that 5%, 6%, you're taking the risk of inflation. Just that you're putting it under the carpet. So don't do that. Accept what risks you're going to take for long term. If this portfolio is for long term, and I've said this enough number of times and I continue to say this, doesn't matter what the market is at. If your time horizon is 10 years, please put in that money. Doesn't matter what your age is. And I know these things make me unpopular, saying, even if you're 60, if I'm 60, how can I put money in equity? Do you need that entire money today? You have 2 crores, 3 crores in your bank account lying idle. Isn't that a criminal waste of money, right? If you need that money after 10 years, definitely stay invested for that 10 years. Invest gradually. Unlike people who are earning regularly, you may not have that monthly surplus to put in, which is fine, but you don't need that money as well. So make sure that you're aware of the risks that you're taking, and you know how to balance those risks. For example, in equity, if you were to invest in equity, two things that can cut down your risk drastically. One is definitely giving time to your portfolio, and the second is making a nice diversified portfolio and not a concentrated portfolio, and trusting an expert to do this rather than you doing it by yourself with limited information and expertise. Trust an expert to do this. Pay for that advice, pay for that expertise. Usually, like I said, we are penny wise pound foolish. We don't want to pay fees. Indians hate paying something, like an advice. आप advice देते हो, advice तो free में आनी चाहिए. Right? So it doesn't work like that. Advice comes with expertise, and if you're going to take advice, pay for that advice, and that's when you will um, gain from that or cut that risk as well.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Ashish, for your question, and thank you, Shweta, also for answering that. It was so it's very interesting one. Next, we have a question from Ms. Ankita. She asks, "From my understanding, there's no right time to invest, but can you list some reasons as to why one should start investing early, and what all financial options will be beneficial for millennials like us?"
Okay, Ankita, you and I are both millennials. I may have gray hair here, but I'm still a millennial. I still have the same issues that you, and I face them every day. I'll give you my example of a credit card so you'll believe me better. So, 4 years ago, we actually moved to our own home, and I ended up spending on a lot of things. And I actually, the spending was not the part, spending was the fun part, but the eye opener came when my accountant said, "This is how much you've spent on credit cards." And I lost it, and I was like, "Are you serious? I don't think I spent it. Maybe you've double counted it or triple counted it. There's no way I spent that much." And he said, "You have." And I was in shock. And what I did was I just gave my credit card to my husband for 6 months. I did not use my credit card for 6 months because I was like, I'm totally out of control and I'm just swiping my card all the time. It's become a habit that I want to break. So that's a drastic step that I took. Uh, there is no right time to invest because when you are saving for a particular goal, start investing then. When you're saying, what are options that will be beneficial for anybody, if you have long term aspirations, if you have aspirations which are more like most of us, right? So then you need to save, invest into equity. Now, I'll give you an example. Now, why investing early is important. Say you have a goal of 10 lakhs and you're going to invest in an FD, or you're just going to save in your piggy bank or your good luck, right? Or your bank account. You may need to save, say, 20,000 per month to reach your goal after 10 years, wherever, because you're not going to earn anything on it. But if you're going to earn on that, for example, in an equity, you may have to save, say, 10,000. So the other 10,000 you can actually spend. So you have to choose, right? So whether it's going to be safe and you're going to invest 20,000, or whether you want to take that risk and invest, say, 10,000, right? And consume the other 10,000. So I'll give you an example. Somebody came to me the other day and said, I'm 40 years old or 42 years old, and I own my own home now, which is loan free. My kid is going to go to college in 5 years, and the only investment that I have is the house that I live in, right? No other investments. And I was shocked. And he said it so proudly, said that I'm loan free completely. And I said, you know what? I have a loan at 7.2%, which is great. I also get tax benefit at that. So it's not that being loan free such a great thing. But you have, my biggest worry is that you don't have anything. What if first you're not even giving your money a chance to grow because it's only 5 years. So now you end up saving a lakh a month for that goal, for which you could have saved, say, 20,000 or 25,000 had you just invested it rightly right from the beginning. So which is why starting early is so underrated, right? Because you saw that example where I gave you second day, third day, fourth day. If you don't reach the 28th and the 29th day, see the difference between the first day and the second day, 1 rupee. See the difference between 29th day and 30th day, almost 28 crores. So that is what, it's just one day. Both are just one days. One is at the beginning, one is at the end. That is the whole difference of compounding, right? Which is why you have to start early, so that you can give it that 28, 29, 30 years. And trust me, the years pass by much quickly than it seems. So don't fall into this trap of just FD. Start investing in equity. Start with small amounts. Start with 1,000 rupees. Start with 500 rupees, whatever you have, but do it consistently. After 2 years, you will see how your portfolio is done, and you will start investing much more. And you'll tell me, you'll come back and tell me, Shweta, why did you tell me 1,000 rupees? You should have told me invest everything that could spare. But start, because this is a journey that you need to learn on, and nobody else can do it. You have to do it.
Certainly, it is. So it is a learning journey, the process of investing money and growing, actually growing the money. So thank you, Ankita, for your question. Now we have the next question from Mr. Manoj. He asks, I wanted to know something about SIPs, which is more profitable, is short term or long term? Because I have seen people withdraw their money when there is a downward trend in the market.
So people will do the exact opposite thing that they should be doing, right? So don't follow the herd, although it seems much safer to go with the herd. अगर सब गिरेंगे तो सब एक साथ गिरेंगे. But don't follow the herd. Uh, do what is right for you. Uh, what is more profitable, short term or long term? So ideally, SIPs in the long term are much more profitable. But for me, like I said, SIP is towards a goal. So if you have a short term goal, there's nothing stopping you from doing an SIP for the short term. I do SIPs for my son's school fees every year. Why? Because I can set aside a monthly amount. So when the school fees is due, it doesn't feel like such a burden. Right, at the same time, I'm saving for my retirement as well, which is a long term goal. So it doesn't have to be either or, it has to be both. It has to be for your goals. Which is more profitable? Definitely long term, right? That is without a question. How will a short term debt fund give you much more returns than a long term equity fund? But for me, a short term is also more beneficial. I think for me, I will go with more beneficial. For me, both are equally beneficial, because if I don't pay his school fee, there's no way I can send him to college, right, without sending him to school. So I need to pay those fees as well. So first I set aside for my short-term goals, and then for my long-term goals as well. Usually it's a trade-off. So everything in financial planning or in life is a trade-off, right? So you have to figure out, okay, do I need this short-term goal, which is that vacation, or do I put this money aside for my retirement? More often than not, we choose the short-term one, vacation, because it feels so good, right? But sometimes choose the long-term one as well.
Thank you, Sweta, for answering the question, and also thank you, Manoj, for the question. Due to paucity of time, we will only be able to take one more question. This is like, I guess price rise of essential commodities is affecting all of us in a country. How can we make a smart investment considering the circumstances?
So yeah, that's inflation, right? Price rise of commodities is what inflation is. In fact, the reported inflation and the inflation that you and I see will be very, very different. For example, healthcare inflation, education inflation are all in double digits, not even in single digits. So your portfolio and my portfolio has to be giving us double digit returns for us to live well. Otherwise, we will be putting in more and more money and or consuming less and less, right? So what do you do? Where do you invest? Equities, no other answer. Whether it's equity mutual funds, whether it's PMS, whether it's direct stocks, portfolio, whatever it is, it has to be equity, because that's the only asset class that will give you good returns in the long term. Of course, property for long has been said that it's a great investment option. For me, the only thing is that it requires a huge capital, comes with its own set of risks. Gold last year was the asset to be in. So for me, it's been equity, and it'll always be equity in the long term, because these are businesses that you're investing in. These are not just stock tickers, right? These are businesses, and if whether you're running your own business or whether you're an employee, you can invest in the best businesses by investing in their stocks. So yeah, so for me, equity investing it is.
Right, right. Thank you so much. It was really a very wonderful presentation, and I hope many of us in the audience were able to connect. I also include myself as a member of the audience because I was also listening to you very carefully because I was also able to relate as a millennial to whatever you were saying. Now, so in the Q&A or part also, you have also illustrated from your own example, from your own life examples, like how to go about in this process of growing money. Before closing down, any closing remarks that you'd like to make for our audience today?
Yeah, I think more often than not, we're focused on how much my equity portfolio has given me rather than how much I have given to my equity portfolio. For example, if you've invested 10 rupees out of the 100 rupees savings that you have, you want that 10 rupees to work like a horse, right? You want it to generate 100% returns. So that 10 becomes 20. But if you had invested, say, 50 and it had worked say only 10 or it had given you 20%, it'll still give you that 10 rupees extra and it'll become 60, right? So for me, make sure that you're allocating your assets correctly according to what your requirement is, and don't push your equity to perform that much more better, because with higher returns usually you need to take more risk, which I don't really feel comfortable with. So make sure that you're not focusing just on the return but also on how much you are investing.
Right, right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Sweta. It was really a pleasure having you with us today. And thanks once again for, for accepting our invitation and being a part of this wonderful mentored session. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure being here.
Thank you. Pleasure is all ours. So, with this, we come to an end of today's mentored session. I would like to thank our audience who have joined us from across four different platforms: Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Twitter. You can always refer back to our previous videos of Mentored on our YouTube channel, Dutch Uncles. So, please check that. And let's meet next Thursday with another speaker. With this, we come to an end of this episode of Mentored. Please allow me, your host, Avilash, to say goodbye. Thank you so much.